Looks like we have a clear winner here.
It's looking that way. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the December edition of the BCHA virtual event series presented by Fortis BC. Today's session is New Year, New Tactics, 5 leadership tools to take into 2023. I'm Mike McLeod. I'm Director of Member and Business Development for the BC Hotel Association. Thank you for participating in our poll here. We look like we've got National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and Die Hard neck and neck. So get your votes in. We'll update the winners at the end. So a pleasure to have everybody join us. I'd like to begin by acknowledging I'm here in Vancouver, located on the unceded and ancestral territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Jennifer, our guest speaker, is in the Victoria area on the unceded territory of the Wasanich peoples, and we thank them and their land for which has been stewarded by them since time immemorial. Before we jump into our panel, I need to switch slides here. As I mentioned, the topic will be New Year, New Tactics, 5 leadership tools to bring it to 2023. Our sponsor is Fortis BC. And Fortis BC will be sponsoring our entire series and the last one here in 2022 and all of 2023. So we thank them for their tremendous support of the Hotel Association as well as the industry here in BC. Fortis BC is committed to sustainable solutions and offers renewable natural gas, or RNG, which is a sustainable certified carbon neutral energy that is key to a lower carbon future for BC. Fortis is working towards having 75% of the natural gas in our system be either renewable or low carbon by 2050. Based on current growth, they're confident they'll get there. To learn more about RNG and other energy solutions and rebates available through Fortis BC, please contact Fortis BC's rep for our industry, Vladimir Kostka. His email will be placed in the chat, and so you can access that afterwards. Before I introduce our guest speaker here, I do want to let everybody know that the Q&A function, at the bottom of your screens will be available for questions as we go along here. And as we go along, we'll be picking out questions to ask Jennifer or to explore further discussion. So without further ado, you've heard enough from me. I'd like to welcome Jennifer Woppenkamp. Jennifer is passionate about people and is an associate with Blue Mountain Solutions, has led countless training courses in exceptional customer service and leadership development. She loves nothing more than being part of people's growth and providing operational support to companies striving to improve. By coaching leaders on the job, the results are felt and seen financially through customer delight and by the obvious engagement of the team she works with. A passionate and engaging speaker, her sessions are always filled with best practices, useful anecdotes, and a healthy dose of humor. It's a pleasure, Jennifer, to have you with us today, and over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. I am so excited to be here. And you know what's not lost on me is that I'm in a room full of leaders, and this is your silly season. So I know that everything that I have to offer you today is some of the best. And I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to spend some time with me so that you can go into this new year refreshed and recharged, because wow, don't we have an exciting year ahead. Now, I have to say, I love Zoom. I'm so grateful for it. I am a hand talker, and if I was standing, I am a walking talker. So you're going to see a lot of my hands. Also, I have all of the materials for this presentation sitting around me here. So if you see me looking down, looking left, looking right, it's because I'm looking for the next piece of content for you. So I'm here with you, and I really look forward to this next 50 minutes. I'm just going to share here. Wonderful. So I want you to please meet me at the line today. I'm going to be here offering an incredible presentation, and I am no for absolute certain that there is information in here that will be fresh and new to you. And that is because it is absolutely distilled from our 4-part leadership. And it was so challenging and fun to go through and really take out and try to tighten up what could be possibly delivered in just a 50-minute presentation. So you're going to get some time with me and, of course, some time with Mike as well. But I have some expectations of you. I need you to engage. So on your lower bar, there is an option for some thumbs up, some emojis. I want to know that you're here. So if you want to give that a try now, that would be fantastic for me. Perfect. Excellent. So I see that there's some, yes, you're here. And I'm seeing some familiar names pop up. Oh my goodness. You know, looking at the list of leaders that are here, we have people from Vancouver Island, Burnaby, Vancouver, but as far north as Burns Lake. I am so excited to see leaders from all over the province here. And I think about Big White. I'm not sure if you've made it in here, but if you're here, Lori, wow, so fantastic, because this is the peak of your season up on Big White. So the other thing I expect from you is to take away 1 or 2 ideas. And so if you all have pen and paper, it would be great if you could just show them up, and let's continue forward. Okay, so today we are talking about human-centric leadership. Human-centric leadership. And I'm just going to stop share because I don't want you to read everything. I want you to look at me. So human-centric leadership is quite literally the only leadership idea that I am bringing into 2023. This is not a buzzword, okay? This is a part of our business vernacular going forward. And I can tell already that every single one of you aspires to be a human-centric leader because you're here and you showed up today and you're ready to take off that manager mask and get ready to be authentic and genuine and real, right? That is the root of human-centric leadership. So going back here, here's our topics for the day. Feel free to write them down. We have accountability through one-on-one meetings, learning from the past to better the future, trust and teams, creating trust, and communicating to connect. Okay, so let's dive in. Oh my goodness, buckle up. Like I'm so excited. So our next piece is, let's flip through, accountability through one-on-ones. So before we can talk about one-on-ones, we need to talk for a moment about the other meetings that we do have and how they differ, just briefly. Most of you likely have a briefing. And so briefings are very timely. They cover what is urgent and important. They're with the immediate team, and they typically happen in the area of which you're working. And there's that sense of urgency to either get on the floor, get on the front desk, open the shop doors, whatever it might be. It always comes with a sense of urgency. So urgent and important. On the other side, there is meetings. So that would be your team meeting. They typically happen once a month, and they are focused on what's important, but not necessarily urgent. And we're looking at broader goals and maybe some challenges or even some new training and development. So those would be your meetings. And if any of you are familiar with Stephen Covey and the 7 habits of highly effective leaders, you might recognize the language of urgent and important versus important and not urgent. So why? So to have a safe space for fostering accountability, aligning strategically, and building trust. Again, I just want you and me here. So the accountability that comes from a one-on-one is that you're going to discuss with your leader This is you and your leadership team, one-on-one. And you're going to discuss the tasks ahead, and you're going to agree on and negotiate on the A's and the B's and the C's. Now, we at Blue Mountain Solutions, we do that with something called a master list. Hope you're not reading everything that's on my master list, but we always go through and decide and agree on the A's and those B's and those C's. And what it means is that there is no surprises or very small chance of surprises. The next is strategic alignment. So when you're in this one-on-one period, you get to decide, again, is that leader actually working on the right things? So is this an A for the business, or is this an A because it's really fun and exciting? Now, I am known to choose what is fun and exciting. So it's wonderful when I have my one-on-ones with Teresa Ito that she reminds me that what the A's are and how we need to move forward. And it also is for building that trust, that mutual accountability. This is a two-way street. So that is why we need to. I'm just gonna pull this back up. Perfect. So leader one-on-ones are leader to leader. They are once a week. They are half an hour. So we're talking about a really short amount, condensed amount of time. They are never canceled, and they are only rescheduled. So things do come up, but they must happen weekly. It is their choice of location and time and day. And you're going to discuss the 3 dials on the dashboard. So location and time and day. Now we are all, as I'll share with you, very busy and very important. And sometimes it's easy for that person to come to you for this meeting, but it isn't always the right idea. So in 2011, I entered into a new role of which there was a Tuesday meeting at 2:30 every single day. The gentleman would come into the meeting and he would be flustered. He would constantly be looking at his phone and his keys. And every time this would happen, I would find that we were making mistakes. And what this gentleman did was actually oversee all of the beverage and food in the hotel. So everything that was being ordered and received. And it was really challenging. And after 4 or 5 weeks of this, being flustered and we started having errors, or maybe they'd always been there, but we started seeing these errors. So on the 5th time, I had said to him when he came in yet again, flustered and ready to go, I said, I have to ask you, did I do something? Have I done something? Because as leaders, we have to learn that it's not always about us. It's not always about us. And he was shocked. What? No, it's what? No, obviously not. No, you haven't done anything. I don't really even know you yet. How could you have done anything? And he went on to say, this is just a really bad time. I know it's a great time for you, but it's a really bad time for me because what's happening is I have to lock up 2 massive refrigerators, 2 bulkhead doors, and storage room doors because there's no one else here right now. It's just me. And I hold all the keys and the phone, and the chefs are all arriving, so they need their food. So this is just, I just need to get back there. I just need to get back there. So I had said to him, once we were finished what we needed to do, I want you to tell me a new time. Tell me a better time that works. And he laughed. This gentleman had been coming to this meeting at 4 o'clock on Tuesday for 20 years. So for me to say, tell me a better time was absolutely shocking to him. So I left it. And on Friday that week, I got a phone call that said, okay, Jennifer, can we have this meeting at 10 a.m. on Tuesday? And I looked at my calendar and I knew I could make it work because it was important. And he said, but there's one more piece. I actually need to be in this refrigerator at that time. So is it okay if you come to me in the refrigerator? And I said, I'll bring my coat. And from then on, we had a beverage meeting at 10 a.m. every single Tuesday in the refrigerator. Now, the other side of that is that we made significantly less errors because we were in the refrigerator looking at the items that we were discussing. It was fantastic. And on the other side, I got to meet the rest of his team in their space and build just some trust there. It was really beautiful. But after 20 years of rushing into a meeting, he was very grateful that we made this small change. I do know that the leader came after me also just accepted that that's where the meeting happened. So we're also going to discuss the 3 dials on the dashboard. I'd love some notes in the comments. I'm going to tell you that one of those dials is finances. So what might some of those other dials be that we need to look at? So if there's any exciting things there, Mike, that's popping up. Perfect. So you see them here. We have finances, of course, but we have guests and colleagues. So in this one-on-one, what you're really going to disseminate is whether or not, or you're gonna really pull out what that leader thinks is happening with the finances and the guests and the colleagues. Now, one of the other byproducts of these one-on-ones is that you're going to have significantly less phone calls, texts, and emails because you have a standing meeting to discuss the little things. Show me a sign if you want less phone calls, texts, and emails, because this is going to be the one takeaway that is the result. It doesn't make them all go away, but it definitely brings them down. So why we need to look at these 3 dials on the dashboard, I like to think of, I don't know if anyone here is a Formula One fan, but I am, and I'm a bit geeky about it. I love Lewis Hamilton. I think that if you want to learn about a nothing to something story that is so beautiful and genuine, he's a great person to reach and learn about. But what if there was no one-on-one between the best driver in the world, arguably the #1 driver in the entire world, and his boss, his team principal, Toto Wolff? What if there was no #1? So Lewis gets in his car and he's looking at his dials on the dashboard and he's going, okay, I need to push hard. I need to win. I need to pass all the cars. I need to be on pole. He's assuming that that's the direction. But what if on the other side, Toto Wolff is sitting over there going, oh, we don't have another engine. So we actually really need him to pull back. So if they're not having those one-on-ones to say, okay, we need to find some middle ground here where you can still be the racer that you want to be, and we get to save our engine. So are any of you currently, Mike, you can come on here and we can have some chat here. Are any of you currently having one-on-ones? And how are they? Like, what do you take out of these one-on-ones with your team? I mean, I have said alignment and trust and strategy, but what else happens in those one-on-ones?
So I'll just remind everyone, if you want to make comments, please just put them in the Q&A. The chat is disabled at the moment. We may have a couple coming in here.
Yeah.
Just a second.
What's coming in? Some of the others that I have are, you know, an opportunity to connect, just an opportunity to really connect and be human. in that space.
Do you feel like there's an opportunity for accountability as well? Just that sort of back and forth?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the root of it. When you're in the meeting, when you're in your one-on-one, and you've gone through your master list, and you both mutually agreed on the A's, let me tell you, this is the easiest accountability you will ever encounter because you've agreed on it. You leave knowing exactly what is happening for the next week. Or some projects will be an A for a few weeks or a few months. But my goodness, this is the easiest accountability, and it allows both of you to mutually agree on what needs to happen. If you come back and your A's are still there, okay, then we need to have a different discussion.
That's right. Melissa Forson weighs in with check-in, collaboration, and ideas.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, this also allows on both sides to bring challenges so that we as leaders with our teams are not left with the idea that we know everything. We get to go back and we get to strategize and we get to build on something else. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks so much for that.
And I'll just remind all those that are on the line, the chat function is disabled, but please use the Q&A function if you have some comments or would like to raise a question.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. So we're going to move on to learning from the past to better the future. Now, you see this photo here? My goodness, is anyone's lobby look like this right now? You have trees and presents. You know, there's likely some lobby hot chocolate there. It is a time of the year where there is a lot of what I like to think of as consistent one-offs. We have potentially, we're planning for room drops that don't normally happen, or check-ins that are laced in chocolate and cocoa, and definitely different kinds of events, brunches, and you know, holiday meals. So it's fantastic that we have all of these one-off events, but where do we collect that information? What do we do with it? And how do we know if we want to do it again and if we can do it any better? So we're going to have briefings. Now, we've had great one-on-one meetings, and now we're going to have these debriefs. So debriefs are a collection of the most important people integral to that specific event. So if this was lobby hot chocolate, maybe you have a food and beverage leader, maybe you have a room service leader, a front office leader, and you get together and you have an opportunity to talk about how this worked. Please, these rules are integral to debriefs. There is no blame. We sentences only. And when I say we sentences, I mean we ran out of cream every day. We couldn't keep the hot chocolate hot. Only we sentences. Now, also, it's timely. If lobby hot chocolate ends on the 26th of December, this needs to happen on the 28th, because we will forget. We will remember how it felt, that it was lovely and the room smelled of hot chocolate, but we will forget the nuances. We will forget that there was challenges, or some days the department that delivered it just forgot. And the last piece is that the most senior leader speaks last, and we'll talk a little bit more about why later. So the activity in this is simply to have two flip charts, one with what we did well, and the other with what we could have done better. So I'm going to give you an example. I worked for a property that had a very difficult Christmas day. Now, you do this whether it's difficult or deemed a success. Now, some would even say we failed. And I have to share this because we had a Christmas dinner, and we ran out of food after the first seating. And I mean all the food, all the turkey, all the menu items that were not supposed to be used that day. But what did we do well? Oh my goodness. Well, we marketed. We clearly had the right price, and we knew who our guests were. So we did do some things well. What could we have done better? Maybe 10 more turkeys. And some different preparation in both front and back of house. Now, that was Christmas dinner. Do you think that just because we failed, that we aren't going to do it again? Absolutely we are, but we're going to make sure that there is a full debrief. So whoever the leadership team is next year knows exactly what happened and what not to do again, or knows exactly what happened and what to do again. So in this document, it is a collection also of real data, real finances, not we spent too much money on flowers, just simply the flowers cost $15 per table. And here's the profit and loss statement that shows what we did do that day. We want to know the colleague impact. We've likely all done things that were profitable, but caused some suffering. And my example to that is selling something like ice cream or popsicles on Canada Day without umbrellas, without sunscreen, and in, full normal uniform instead of shorts and t-shirts. There was some colleague impact there. And we need to know, of course, the guest feedback. So when you have all this information, where do you go? Back to that one-on-one. So the leader responsible for that department or that area is going to take it back into your leadership one-on-one. It's not sitting on your plate anymore. And you're simply going to decide, should we do this event again? It's Christmas Day. We're probably going to have some sort of offering. But what changes are required? And then that information is going to be shared and filed. Now, in this, please be curious. Please be curious. Go out of your way to ask other departments. A great example would be selling out Christmas Day on December 15th in a beautiful big hotel and sending out an email to say, I'm so proud, we're completely sold out, to then have the rooms division manager say, but you do have room for all of our hotel guests, right? Needed to make a little bit of an adjustment there. Have you any events coming up right now in the Q&A? Do you have any events coming up right now that could use this kind of debrief so that you can make good decisions going forward? Mike, anything coming up in there?
We'll just give it a second here as
Yeah.
hopefully some people send this in. So please use the Q&A if you'd like to make a comment or make a suggestion about events that you might be able to use this in coming up.
Excellent. Oh, sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say, quick question for you, Jennifer. When you have multiple departments in these one-on-one sessions or debrief sessions, what's the best recommendation when just to sort of focus on the accountability piece, make sure everyone pulls their weight? In other words,
this is a great time of year to get into this new habit of briefings. If you haven't done it before, it's always going to be the leader that's executing that portion of the operation that takes the content back. So if we're talking about lobby hot chocolate and it's executed by in-room dining or by room service, well, it's going to be the leader of room service that takes that, but it's going to have the contributions of likely the leader of the bell team, the front office manager, and any other leaders teams that interact with that. And so or the night audit team is another one. They might be the ones that put it away. So having those discussions is really important, because if room service is simply putting out hot chocolate without getting any sort of feedback, then they're going to think they're doing a fantastic job.
Exactly. Well said. So we do have a couple of examples that were put in the Q&A. Amber Clark from the Paradox Hotel here in Vancouver.
Lovely.
Yes, we could. Yes, we could use this for our Santa's brunch and upcoming Le Petit Chef dinners.
Absolutely.
And then Trina Coney mentions the Free Ride World Tour and other skiing events that they have coming up.
Oh my goodness. And, you know, I sort of just touched on it, but we know that leaders are going to move up and move on. And it's so important that we collect this data before anybody does that, because if someone leaves, it's lost. And so really important, especially for some of these massive events. I mean, these don't sound like lobby hot chocolate.
Yeah, they're a little more involved.
Little more involved. Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thanks for your contributions. So next, we're going to talk about trust and teams. Now, I am sure that you're all going to raise a hand when I say, how many times in the last 3 years have we discussed trust and teams? I really want to pull it down for you. I'm hoping that something in these next, I know, actually, I'm not hoping, I know for certain that something is going to land here for you, because you are hearing it in a new way or potentially hearing it for the first time. Now, I love this photo. Yes, that is 27-year-old me in the middle there. You can probably like tell by the styling. And then you can see our principal, Teresa Ito, in that photo as well, and this incredible team. So this is the Fairmont Empress Dining Room team. And this photo, if you can believe it, is actually taken, I have goosebumps, it's taken at 1 o'clock in the morning. And we had just executed something we'd never done before. This was a national Chêne de Rochester dinner. We were trying things and experiencing things that were new to most of us. This is not their regular uniform. And this is an absolutely elevated level of service. And the reason I show this is because this team was full of trust, and we brought them along with us. It's just one of those highlight days. I mean, I'm sure that you've all had that feeling before. But I don't love, I am such a positive person. I love to have fun, but we have to talk about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. Now, I will tell you, in our leadership development, we spend basically an entire day on leading teams. But I really want to bring this down to you as close to the bottom as I can. So when we talk about human-centric leadership, it really is the ability to the ability to show up for your team and build trust. Now, some of you might be sitting there going, oh yeah, I trust my team. I know that when I do this, Sarah will do this, and then I will do this. So that is behavioral trust. That's that we understand that there's going to be an action and reaction feedback. So that's behavioral trust. What we're talking about at the bottom of this trust is vulnerable trust. And so Patrick Lencioni, the author of 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, please watch him on YouTube, read his book, really hone in on it. He spends so much time on building trust. Here, he reminds us that this is the real bedrock of leadership. And what he says is that I'm gonna quote him here because I like it. He says, this kind of trust is the ability to be emotionally buck naked with your team. And it is the ability to say, I don't know, I'm sorry. I don't have the answers. I was wrong. That one tends to be the hardest. But here's the real challenge. The most senior leader has to jump first. For the exact same reason that I said in debriefs that the leader has to speak last, the most senior leader has to speak last. When the most senior leader speaks first, that will typically be the only voice and the only opinion that stitches through the content. So I know that you're here, you've signed up for this time to learn how to be human-centric leaders. The root of all of this is that vulnerable trust. Signs of a disconnected team. I actually want you to read this. And I want you to put in that Q&A, put the number, and again, the Q&A, I think, Mike, you said it can only be seen by Mike. So if you're not ready to be really vulnerable out there, I want you to put some numbers into that Q&A. And Mike, you don't have to tell me who, but what are some of these things that actually show up in meetings that you're currently having, that you're leading, and you're experiencing some of this? What is it like out there for you? And do any of these signs show up for you and your teams?
And Jennifer's correct. Only I can see it. So
perfect.
Feel free to be vulnerable.
Feel free to be vulnerable with Mike. Perfect. Excellent.
We do have one here, a couple here, a couple of 4s.
Yeah.
Another 4. So that's coming up.
Yes.
That's coming up frequently. We have a 3. Meetings tend to focus on blame.
And let me just focus on that number 4 for a minute there, Mike. So what this means, what this can mean, I'm not here to accuse anyone. What this can mean is that in that team setting, the team doesn't feel safe to say what they need to say. And it may not be that it's you, but it may be someone else in that room that they don't feel safe with. And let me tell you, if one person sort of breaches that vulnerable trust or refuses to come along on that vulnerable trust ride, no one else can go. No one else can be in that vehicle. So you will get these side conversations, because how can you say what you think or feel or desire when you're worried about the response of someone else?
We also had a couple of number 6s that came through in the.
And confrontation being avoided, where that is, again, just, it's a symptom of a deeper underlying problem. It's a symptom of some disconnect, or again, it's a symptom of lack of trust. Thank you so much for sharing. I know sometimes it's difficult to even consider that this happens on your team. Now, on the opposite side, I'm sure you've been on a team that's excellent. So let's think about that as we go into the next, that's so connected, as we go into the next slide. This is my favorite slide of the day. So I'm hoping that everybody knows this face. If you do, just put a yes in that Q&A. Mike, do you know this face?
I do. That's the head coach of Canada's national soccer team, men's soccer team.
Fantastic. So I have to tell you, it's a quick sidebar, but as I was putting this picture here, this, of course, is the head coach of the Canadian men's soccer team that took the Canadian men's team to the World Cup for the first time in 38 years. And I will tell you that my husband walked into my office, this on my screen, he said, "You really have a thing for John Herdman, don't you?" To which I said, yeah, I do. Do you want to hear about it? And so he stood in my office and I said, when asked how John Herdman got the men's soccer team to the World Cup for the first time, he said, "I had to let them know that I didn't have all the answers. And once we had this common, vulnerable trust for one another, we could then have common purpose." Okay? Once we had the common, vulnerable trust, we could then have common purpose. Come on. So we're not talking about taking men to the World Cup. We're talking about delivering exceptional service to people who want to be in your properties, who want to be there. One of his teammates said, Alphonso Davis, a star forward, said, "We will run through a wall for this man." So this is the result of vulnerable trust. Still with me here? I feel like I could cry. So I said to my husband, yeah, I have a thing for John Herdman. It's just not the thing you think it is. So I can't talk to you about trust without telling you how to create it, how to break down those barriers. My goodness. So in this photo here, oh, I love this. In the background is Trina White. She is the general manager of the beautiful Parkside Hotel here in Greater Victoria. And Teresa Ito, our principal. So this photo is on Christmas Day last year. And that is the housekeeping room. As you can see, there's bath mats, face cloths, linen everywhere. So if you looked at this picture, and I just told you this was the general manager on Christmas Day, for a moment, you might think something went terribly wrong. But the truth is, something went terribly right. Trina had said a couple months before Christmas that she wanted to let her most senior housekeeper, not a housekeeping manager, not a housekeeping supervisor, her most senior housekeeper have Christmas off for the first time, basically since the opening of the Parkside. She didn't have a memory of her not being there on Christmas Day. But what it meant was that she was going to be a housekeeper short for the day. And she said, "It's okay. I'll come. I'll show up. And that's just fine because I need to do this." And so Teresa then said, "Well, I'm coming too. You know, if you're going to be there on Christmas Day, I'm going to be there on Christmas Day." And did they walk in and go, "I should be with my families"? No, they walked in excited to be there. And they excited the team to be there, and they had fun, so much fun. Oh my goodness. So what are you going to do to build that trust? Okay, what are you going to do? So first of all, no more labeling of people. And the labels I mean are Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, Virgo, Aries, whatever it is. When you label someone, it might simplify, it might simplify a belief, but it will never justify the actions that you take from that label. Never. It will always take down the experiences and exposure of each individual person. You know, if you weren't born and raised in North America, maybe the idea of a millennial doesn't fit with any of your experiences, but just simply because you're 34 years old, you fall into that category. We don't deserve that. Now, you will meet your leaders one-on-one. So you're going to stop labeling them and you will meet them one-on-one. And you're going to build connection in that time, all the way back to the beginning. This is where we build connection. We're going to listen to them. And, Bob Chapman is another, write it down, Google Bob Chapman. Actually, I'm going to be giving you a resource at the end here, and there is a wonderful presentation between Simon Sinek, who's a motivational speaker and sort of leader whisperer, and this gentleman, Bob Chapman. And he says, in society, we are rewarded for listening. We are rewarded for talking. We have debate teams. And we're rewarded for talking, but we are not rewarded for listening to understand. So we're going to listen to understand. We're going to ask questions to get to know them, and then really use that when we can, and use it because it's authentic, not because it's something on a checklist. And we are going to keep confidential things confidential. And if you are ever unsure if something is confidential, then you're going to keep it confidential until you are told otherwise. You're also going to meet them at the line. And I use this at the beginning, and this is really what I picture, coming together at the line. We are going to provide the right chemicals for you to do your job safely, and you're going to use those chemicals the right way. We are going to give feedback, and you are going to accept and listen and grow, because this is not personal. It is about better performance, about improving businesses and practices. So we're going to give feedback, and we are also going to accept it. We are going to show up for you. And what that means, there's tons of examples of showing up, but I always think of showing up as when you cut someone off in the bar and they are belligerent, I will always stand behind you that was the right call. You make that call every time, and I will stand behind it. Okay, I think of this as like referees. A referee is never going to change a call because a fan or a parent yelled at them. And we are going to listen to each other, really listen. Listen for learning. So, have you ever been on a trusting team that you really feel this way? You feel like we meet at the line. Has anyone ever experienced? And if you have, you can write in the name of the team, or what you experienced, or what property has a team that has this vulnerable trust. I'm eager.
Share away. Share
away. In 2008 and 2009, I had the absolute privilege to be part of a team that had this kind of trust, and there's nothing like it. And I say their names: Zeri, Jill, Rob, Nadia, Teresa, Chef. It was magic. It was pure magic. So even if you just want to say their names, who's part of that trusting team for you? That would be great.
Please use the Q&A for that.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, I'm not seeing a lot of comments, but I'm hoping it's because there's a lot of note-taking. That everyone's ready to show up for their team like this. Great. Now we're going into the last portion of the day. Now you are all better leaders just for being here. You are all more human-centric leaders just for being here. Hopefully, you can share at the end. We're just wrapping up here. You can share something that really landed for you. This last piece is just simply about communicating to connect. So this is communicating to bring teams together and leaders together. And I'm going to reiterate it again. We are going to seek to understand before you are understood. And that is a Stephen Covey 7 Habits for Highly Effective Leaders mantra. Seek to understand before you are understood. I needed to understand how my beverage controller, why he was frazzled, before I could ever say, do you think you could pay more attention in this meeting? It's really frustrating when you just show up and you're all over the place. I asked the questions, why? So We're also going to give that feedback regularly. And when you give feedback, it starts to be part of your culture. People expect it. How many times was this slideshow presentation reviewed, and by how many eyes, and how much feedback came? Oh my goodness. And I loved every second of it, because every time it came back, it was better and better and better. We're going to celebrate successes. In the Q&A, tell me how you celebrate your successes. I want to know, and I'll tell you what we do here at Blue Mountain Solutions. We ring a bell when we sign a new contract, and we dance, okay? It is too much fun, but that is how we celebrate. There has to be some creative ways that you celebrate on your team, so I look forward to reading some of those. You have to have the difficult conversations, and you will change how people think about you when you can say the things that are the hardest. And we use a method called the FYI method. We talk about the feeling and the action and the impact of that method. And we spend an entire day teaching leaders how to have difficult conversations. And we must be assertive. And if you didn't know, being assertive is not being the loudest in the room or the one with the broadest shoulders. It's simply being confident and direct. This is no space for waffling. It is confidence and being direct. I want you to take a read of this screen. The most important ears that hear what we have to say are our own. And what we say creates the world around us. I do believe that in my core. So, is this the kind of dialogue that you are having with your leaders? How could we be better? I'm really sorry. It was my fault. I value your contribution. I have complete faith in you. So I know that when you are having those one-on-ones where we started the day, this language will begin to come more easily as we become more vulnerable and more human-centric leaders in 2023. Thank you. Thank you for your time today. I'm very grateful to have had this opportunity to speak to all of you. In the Q&A, can you take a moment, tell me what your takeaway was today? 1 or 2, what do you think you can take into your team today, tomorrow?
Perfect. Jennifer, thank you. We'll allow people to answer that last question in the Q&A. I'll say a few things and we'll come back and have a look at those. I see a few coming in now. But Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate you participating in December's virtual event. And it's been an incredible session. You can see the passion that comes through in how you present the materials. So well done, and I hope it's a great takeaway for a lot of folks.
I also just want to say, Mike, I'm not going anywhere right away. So if there is anyone who wants to, if it's possible, they can stay behind, and can we make their video come on?
I'm not sure we can do that, but we might be able to keep going for a few minutes for any questions that you can answer one-on-one.
Okay, great. And I can pull up the Q&A at that point too, if anybody wants to come in there.
Awesome. I'll just make a quick announcement and we'll come back and just wrap it up really quick. We are providing some more training to our members starting in January, and it's our Fast Track Your Future series. So it's a 4-part training program that's going to run from the middle of January until about the middle of April or so. And we're going to touch on such elements as Blue Mountain Solutions will be back with customer service and leadership training. We'll have some operational training, and we'll kick things off with financial leadership. All of these courses are going to be designed to be done within an hour. In some cases, there are a series of courses. The Fast Track Your Future Financial series we're bringing back from 2 years ago, and it was highly successful. That's a great course if you have new leaders in positions of leadership that need some work with their financial acumen, their financial literacy, finding their way around the P&L, those types of things. Our facilitator is a wonderful teacher, great experience within the industry. That session will start January 18th. All of the details are on our website currently at bcha.com. And if you just go to the resources tab, you can sign up. And we'll be announcing more training, including more training with Blue Mountain Solutions that will start a little bit later in the winter and into the spring. So looking forward to that. So again, that's on the website, bcha.com, under the resources tab. The guide, some information is in the Q&A chat there that you should be able to see the information provided here. And if there's no other questions, we'll allow everyone to get back to their day. But Jennifer will hang out here for a few minutes, and if there's questions that people want to take offline, we can definitely do that. So Jennifer, thanks so much, and thanks everybody.
Thank you. Thanks so much. You know, I see here